House number 1. Overliff, the Castle of Park Hill. 981 rock sitting above the Hudson River in Yonkers, New York. Built in 1892. 31 rooms. 9 bedrooms, 6.5 bathrooms, 8 fireplaces, 6 full levels, and a central tower that climbs straight up into an observatory with a 360-degree view down to the Manhattan skyline. Listed around $1.29 million. Look at it from outside first. This isn't Victorian in the usual gingerbread and paint sense. This is American shingle style, built almost entirely from dark wood shingle and stone, with steep conical turret roofs stacked on top of each other like something out of a fairy tale nobody finished telling. The whole house sits on a stone base with arched openings cut straight into the rock, like the mansion is growing out of a cliff face instead of sitting on top of it. It was built by E.K., Martin, president of the American Real Estate Company, the man who developed Park Hill itself. He didn't just buy a lot in this neighborhood. He built the neighborhood and then built himself a castle at the top of it to watch over what he'd created. Walk the exterior and there are 2 wraparound porches, each 80 feet long, cantilevered off the stone base with nothing but wood brackets holding them out over the drop toward the river. From certain angles, the porches look like they're floating over open air. Inside, the entry hall alone tells you what this house was built for. Dark carved oak beams cross the ceiling in a coffered grid. A wide staircase curves up past a balustraded landing that opens onto a second-floor gallery, looking straight down into the entry below, the kind of layout built specifically so a house full of servants and guests could see and be seen, moving through every level at once. Antique velvet chairs sit untouched at the base of the stairs, like they've been waiting for someone to come down and use them. Now go up. Levels 3 and 4 hold 8 of the 9 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and 2 long central corridors, plus a chapel. A private chapel, built into a private residence, in 1892. That's not a common feature in even the grandest Victorian mansions. Someone living in this house needed a room set aside specifically for prayer, inside their own home, away from everyone else. Keep climbing and the house narrows into the turret itself, 2 bonus rooms tucked into the southwest tower, then up again to level 5, where there's a large bedroom nobody talks about. And then finally level 6, the observatory. A room built for nothing but looking out. 360 degrees of glass, high enough above the tree line to see clear across the water to the Manhattan skyline. Whoever built this wanted to watch the city from a distance, alone, above everyone else in Park Hill. Down at ground level, the story changes completely. There's a laundry room, a workshop, and a fully remodeled 1-bedroom apartment with its own kitchen and bathroom, a modern unit sitting in the base of a 130-year-old stone foundation. That's 6 different levels of history stacked on top of each other, from a 19th century chapel to a 21st century rental unit, all under one roof. None of it removed, none of it reconciled. The lot includes a separate buildable parcel on the adjoining avenue, meaning whoever owns Overliff also controls the land directly beside it. 30 minutes from Grand Central by train, sitting on an acre of land in one of the only neighborhoods in America built entirely around one man's real estate company and his personal castle at the top of the hill. 31 rooms, 8 fireplaces. A private chapel 4 flights up. An observatory that looks down on Manhattan from a turret built before electricity was standard in most American homes. $1.29 million gets you all 6 levels of a house built by a man who developed the very ground it's sitting on and never quite finished deciding whether it was a home, a monument, or a watchtower. House number 2, simply known as the Castle, 615 Columbia Street, Elmira, New York. 10 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 41 rooms total, 8,284 square feet. Built in 1900. Listed at $99,900 under 6 figures for one of the most ornate mansions in the entire town. Look at it from the outside. Mansard-style roof with Gothic influences, sharp dormers stacked all across the top, a square central tower rising above everything else, capped in patterned slate with a decorative finial spearing straight up into the sky. The whole exterior is carved stone and brick arched window hoods, repeating across 3 full stories. A wraparound porch tucked under the roofline. This isn't a house that got dressed up to look like a castle. Locals just call it that because there's no other word that fits. 41 rooms. Say that number again, 41. That's not a large house. That's a small institution built for one family in the year 1900, back when families that size needed a room for absolutely everything. Walk into the front parlor, and the decay is right there in the open. Wallpaper peeling in long sheets down to bare plaster, water stains, bleeding rust, orange across the walls in patches the shape of continents. The ceiling above is stripped down to wood lath, exposed and sagging. But dead center in the room, untouched, is a full marble fireplace mantel with a mirrored overmantel still intact. Carved wood shelving still standing on either side. Bare hardwood floor. A single door hanging open on brass hinges into a dark hallway beyond. The room is falling apart and perfectly preserved at the same time. Now go to the room that survived. Cream and gold walls, ornate crown molding running unbroken around the entire ceiling. A curved bay window fitted with stained glass panels in deep red and green, built-in wood window seat with drawers underneath. A brass chandelier hangs from the center of the ceiling on a long chain. This room looks the same today as it did the year the house was finished, while 2 rooms over, the plaster is falling off the walls. Here's what the listing says outright. No filter. Restoration has begun. New electric service has been added. A newer rubber roof. 2 high-efficiency boilers already installed. Some rooms are gutted, stripped down, waiting for drywall. Others retain their original character completely untouched. That means someone already spent real money trying to save this house and stopped partway through. Whatever reason they walked away with the wiring done, the roof replaced, and half the rooms still in ruins. The listing states it plainly. The home is not currently habitable. And there's a massive barn on the property too. But the listing warns it's in rough enough condition that it won't even be accessible during a showing. Whatever's happened to that structure, it's bad enough that buyers aren't allowed near it. The math here is brutal. Zillow's estimate on this property sits at $230,000. It's listed at $99,900, less than half of what the algorithm says it's worth. Assessed tax value. $173,200. Every number attached to this house says it should cost more than it does, and the one variable explaining the gap is standing right there in that first photo. Peeling plaster, stripped ceilings, and a barn nobody's allowed to walk into. 10 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a massive curved open staircase original to 1900. Stained glass windows still catching light the way they did over a century ago, sitting on nearly half an acre in Elmira. 41 rooms of Gothic mansard mansion, half restored and half abandoned, for under $100,000 and a barn out back that even the realtor won't open the door to. House number 3. Orchardton Castle. Auchencairn, Scotland on the Solway coast. 20 bedrooms, 15 bathrooms, over 40 rooms across 4 floors. Originally built in the late 1700s, then almost entirely rebuilt in 1881 into the castle standing today. Listed at $2.83 million. Look at the exterior first. Gray stone, steep conical turret roofs, stepped gables climbing at different heights across the roofline, a forest of chimney stacks rising above it all. It's grade B listed in Scotland, meaning it's legally recognized as a building of special historic interest, and any changes to it are government regulated. This isn't just an old house, it's a protected piece of Scottish heritage that someone can still privately own and live inside. And this castle has done more than sit here looking Gothic. Before it became a private home again, it operated as a hotel, a school, and a hospital for wounded soldiers. 3 completely different institutions, 3 different waves of people passing through the same stone hallways, students, patients, guests inside a building that started life as one family's mansion house. Walk through the entrance, and you're in a hallway with a stone floor and a carved wooden staircase, red carpet running dead center up the steps between dark timber balustrades. At the top of the stairs, a large stone open fireplace waits to greet you, not decorative, structural. The kind built to actually heat a hallway with fire alone. The ceiling here is covered in elaborate plasterwork, cream and gold geometric panels stretching the length of the room, with a crystal chandelier hanging at the center. There are 3 separate staircases serving the lower ground floor and 2 upper levels. One of them still contains the original central lift mechanism, meaning this castle had some form of elevator shaft built into its own stairwell, likely from a much older era of the building, and it's still there. The principal floor holds a 32-foot drawing room with an exceptional plasterwork ceiling, a wood-burning stove, and a bay window looking straight out across the soulway. Next to it, a music room with wood paneling, a working fireplace, and another huge bay window framing the same water view. Beyond that, a sewing room, a sitting room, a study. Rooms built for very specific, very old-fashioned functions, a home designed around a way of living that doesn't really exist anymore. Upstairs, the first floor holds a master suite with its own dressing room and ensuite bathroom, 4 more bedrooms, a screening room, and a library the listing itself calls the most delightful place to sit with a book. The second floor is built to be split apart entirely 8 more bedrooms or public rooms, 4 bathrooms, and a kitchenette, laid out specifically so it could function as staff quarters or separate rental apartments, and the lower ground floor continues that same pattern. 2 more bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 sitting rooms, a function room, a table tennis room, and workshops, all of it convertible into self-contained living space. Now, the number that matters most, over 30 working fireplaces. Not decorative mantels, 30-plus fireplaces that still function, spread across a castle with oil central heating layered on top of them. That's a building that has never fully let go of the way it was originally kept warm, generation after generation, room after room. The grounds run to about 5 acres lawns, a pond, a wooded area, an unfenced paddock, a wooden stable block. Because the property sits within the Gulf Stream's reach, the gardens grow things that shouldn't survive this far north, including a palm tree standing in a Scottish castle garden. There's even private footpath access across a field to a beach that's essentially exclusive to whoever owns this land. The castle was extensively renovated in 2011. New roof, new electrics, new central heating and pipework, and the current owners have kept restoring it since, replacing windows and updating decor room by room. But the listing is honest about it. Some areas still require, in its own words, some TLC. Meaning, after everything that's already been spent, there are still corners of this 40-room building nobody has finished bringing back. Access to the property runs down a private, tree-lined lane shared with 5 other homes, with maintenance costs split between all 6 roughly 400 pounds a year. Historically, that's the only ordinary, mundane detail in the entire listing. A small shared road bill, attached to a private Scottish castle that once held soldiers recovering from war inside its walls. 20 bedrooms, 15 bathrooms, 30 plus working fireplaces, a hospital, a school, and a hotel, all in one building's past. $2.83 million buys the whole of Orchardton Castle, an estate the Ministry of Historic Scotland still watches over, sitting quietly on the Solway coast, waiting to become whatever its next owner decides it should be. House number 4, 77 Brinkerhoff Street, Plattsburgh, New York. 14 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, 9,732 square feet, sitting on just over an acre in the city's historic residential district. Built in 1878, a Second Empire manor with a mansard tower rising above the roofline. Listed at $875,600. Look at it from the air first. Gray stone construction, a boxy mansard roof with dormer windows cut into every side, and one central tower rising higher than the rest of the house, capped with an ornate cupola and topped by a finial and weather vane. Whole sections of the roofline have that faded, mismatched patchwork, look some slate darker, some lighter. Decades of partial repairs layered on top of each other instead of one clean restoration. The front door is the one splash of color on the whole building, a bright turquoise double door with oval glass panels, set inside a carved stone archway, flanked by iron railings green with age. Above it, a small white balcony looks like it hasn't held weight in years. It's the kind of detail that makes an otherwise gray stone facade feel almost theatrical, like the house is trying to invite you in despite everything else about it. Now step inside. One room still has its original mahogany fireplace mantel, carved and dark, with a mirror built into the overmantel. Floral wallpaper in gold and green climbs the walls behind it, the same pattern repeating into the next room. Beyond that, an entire bay window alcove 5 separate window sections wrapping around in a half-circle darkwood trim, built-in cast-iron radiators lined up beneath each pane. Parquet wood flooring, laid in a herringbone pattern, still intact underfoot. It looks less like a bay window and more like its own separate room built entirely out of glass and dark wood. Here's where it gets strange. 14 bedrooms, but only 4 of them have closets. The other 10 are described in the listing as, in its own words, dormitory-style rooms. That's not standard Victorian family housing, that's a house built or converted, at some point, to sleep large numbers of people in small, closetless rooms, lined up like a boarding school or a residence hall. 2 full kitchens. 1 kitchenette. 2 additional dining areas beyond the main formal one. 3 separate living rooms. 10 full bathrooms and 3 half bathrooms. That is an enormous amount of duplicated infrastructure for what's supposedly one residence, multiple kitchens, and multiple living rooms, usually mean a house that's been split, subdivided, or used to house more than one family or group at different points across its 147-year history. The formal dining room still has its built-in china cabinets, original to the house, 10 and 12-foot ceilings throughout. Cast iron heaters, original hardware still on solid wood panel doors, French doors, pocket doors, and a second staircase built specifically for separate access to the upper floor, meaning, at some point, people needed to move through this house without using the main stairs at all. Outside, there's a screened porch with drop-down side tables built into the railings, a handicap ramp built from matching decking material, and sitting separately on the property, a 600-square-foot cottage, its own small structure entirely apart from the main house. The zestimate on this property is $875,600, almost exactly matching the asking price, unusually aligned compared to most of these listings. But the estimated rent is only $1,581 a month, a number that makes no sense for a 14-bedroom, 9,700-square-foot manor unless the market simply doesn't know what to do with a building this size and this strange. 14 bedrooms. 10 dormitory rooms with no closets. 2 kitchens. 3 living rooms. A second staircase built for people who weren't supposed to use the front one. A separate 600-square-foot cottage on the same lot. $875,600 buys all of it a Second Empire mansion in upstate New York that spent part of its 147 years housing a lot more people than any one family ever needed. House number 5, 159 North Church Street, Goshen, New York. 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 4,116 square feet, built in 1872. Listed at $849,000. And this one comes with an actual former dental office still inside it. Look at the roofline first. Dark green mansard roof, patinade almost black in places, with arched dormer windows breaking through on every side. 2 separate towers rise off the main structure, each capped with its own decorative cresting, brick facades trimmed in white stone. It's classic Second Empire, the same architectural style that dominated the 1870s, but this one has a detail most don't. a bay window bump out on the second floor. Curved white trim wrapping around arched glass, sitting almost like a lantern grafted onto the side of the tower. This house is zoned mixed use, and right now it's not just a home, it's operating as a working commercial dental office, with 2 residential tenants living inside the same building, plus a vacant walk-up attic on top of all of it. 3 separate uses, layered inside one Victorian mansion built 153 years ago. Walk into what used to be the waiting room and you'll see it immediately. A dark wood door with an exit sign mounted above it, and beside the doorknob, in glowing script, a single word: smile. That's not a decorator's choice, that's leftover dental office signage. Still hanging exactly where the last patient saw it on their way out. 2 gray chairs sit against the wall beneath tall arched windows, a brass coat rack standing between them, and old cast iron radiators still bolted to the floor. Wood trim, crown molding, hardwood floors all original surrounding what was, until recently, a dentist's reception area. Now go up to the 3rd floor, and the entire mood of the house changes. Bare wood floorboards covered in construction dust and shavings. Pink painted walls cracked and peeling near the ceiling line. 2 wooden shipping crates sit alone in the middle of the room, one stamped this end up, the other fragile cargo boxes just left there, in a room the listing itself describes as untouched, ready for renovation. Nobody's been up here in what looks like a very long time. Here's the detail that should make you pause. The listing says this floor is a vacate walk-up attic. That means it wasn't just storage, it was a separate living or working space that people moved out of, and the shipping crates sitting alone in that dusty room are the last physical trace of whoever, or whatever, was being packed up and shipped out of the top floor of a former dental office. The house sits in Goshen, a historic village first established in 1788, walking distance to the town's harness horse racetrack, its farmers market, its schools and hospitals, with a direct bus line running straight into New York City. On paper, this is exactly the kind of easy, small-town commuter location that sells fast. But this house has already sat on that same street, inside the same tangle of ornate Second Empire mansions the town is known for, waiting for someone willing to take over a working dental practice, 2 active tenants, and an abandoned attic all under one roof. Towering ceilings, oversized original windows, antique crown molding throughout the first floor, the bones here are genuinely beautiful. But this is a building currently split 3 ways between medicine, tenants, and an empty room full of packed crates nobody's opened. $849,000 gets you all of it. The practice, the tenants, the attic, and whatever's really behind that door that still says smile. House number 6, 19 South Washington Avenue, Oxford, New York. 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2,308 square feet, built in 1903. Listed at $202,100. Look at the exterior first. Pale sage green shingled siding with deep red-orange trim. A rounded turret on the front corner capped with a conical roof, and above it, a massive cross-gabled attic dormer with a diamond-patterned window filling almost the entire gable end. Wraparound front porch, white railings, a single red door tucked underneath. It's Queen Anne Victorian, dressed in a color palette that looks almost seasonal mint green and rust orange. Like the house itself, picked October as its permanent color scheme. Step through the front door into the foyer, and the staircase is the first thing that grabs you. A heavy carved wood newel post, dark and geometric, stands at the base of stairs that curve up and out of view. To the side, a leaded glass window filters soft light across original hardwood floors. Floral wallpaper runs the length of the hallway in a repeating vine pattern, untouched, original to a house that's now over 120 years old. Now here's a detail worth stopping on. There's a single ornate cast iron grate mounted on the wall, dark bronze, patterned with carved flowers and vertical bars, arched at the top like a small Gothic window. It's not decorative in the modern sense. It's a floor or wall register, the kind used to vent heat up from a furnace below into the room above, cast with more artistry than most furniture gets today. Somebody in 1903 wanted even the heating vents to look like they belonged in a cathedral. Go up to the attic, and the whole tone of the house shifts. Exposed wood roof rafters form a steep A-frame overhead, a brick chimney rising up through the center of the room, raw wood plank flooring underfoot scattered with old boards and a few random obecs left behind. Light pours in through a small window at the far end. The listing calls this a huge walk-up attic with a cedar closet, but standing in it, it just looks like a massive, mostly empty wooden cavity at the top of the house, exactly the kind of space every haunted house movie uses for its climax. Here's what makes this listing different from most. It's currently zoned and operating as a working hair salon. 2 large finished rooms on the first floor, complete with laundry and a half bath, are actively being used as a business right now, inside the same walls as 5 bedrooms of living space. Whoever buys this isn't just buying a Victorian home, they're buying an active, income-producing salon business built directly into a 120-year-old house. The first floor alone includes a formal dining room with pass-through cabinets, a kitchen with a walk-in pantry, a sunroom looking out over the Chenango River, a formal parlor, a living room with a working wood-burning fireplace, plus a full bedroom and bathroom, all before you even reach the second floor's 4 additional bedrooms. And there's a carriage house on the property, big enough for 2 or more cars, with its own walk-up loft for storage and an actual loading dock. That's a 120-year-old structure built for horses and carriages, still standing, still functional, now doing double duty as a garage and workshop. The math here is almost too good. Zillow's own estimate puts this house at $202,000, meaning it's priced right around fair market value, which almost never happens with houses this ornate and this old. Comparable homes nearby with far less detail, no carriage house, no salon business built in, are selling in the same range or higher. 5 bedrooms, a turret, a working hair salon inside a Victorian home, a hand-carved cast iron heat register straight out of another century, a raw wooden attic big enough to hide anything, a 120-year-old carriage house with its own loading dock, $202,100 for all of it. Riverview included proof that upstate New York is still quietly sitting on some of the strangest, most beautiful real estate deals in the entire country. House number 7, the Bennett-Deyrup Estate. North Broadway, Upper Nyack, New York, sitting right on the Hudson River. 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, 7,049 square feet. Built in 1887. Listed at $3.9 million. Look at it from the water. Sage green shingled walls, orange-red trim, a round conical turret roof rising off one corner, another taller square tower climbing even higher near the center, capped in matching red. Multiple balconies stack on top of each other overlooking the river, gingerbread trim running under every gable. This isn't a house that was renovated to look old, it's a genuine 1887 Queen Anne that's been meticulously restored, down to the last decorative bracket. There's a black and white photograph of this exact house that still exists, same turret, same porch columns, same silhouette against the sky, taken sometime in the early 20th century. 100 years separate that photograph from the aerial shot of the house today, and the shape hasn't changed. That's rare. Most Victorian mansions this age have been altered beyond recognition. This one hasn't. Here's who actually lived here. In 1919, the house was bought by Alvin Johnson, the co-founder of the New School for Social Research, and the man who created something called the University in Exile, a program that gave academic refuge to 200 scholars fleeing Nazi Germany. He wrote about finding this house from a tiny newspaper ad reading Gentleman's Estate on the Hudson. When he first saw it, the listing says, it was in bad repair, standing in 3 acres of grass so tall his own children disappeared into it while running. He lived here until his death, and after him, the house passed to the painter Dorothy Deyrup. So this house has quite literally sheltered people who once sheltered scholars from a genocide. That's not decorative history. That's the actual weight sitting inside these walls. Now walk through the turret room. Curved stained glass windows in red, amber, and green ring the top of the space. Dark wood trim framing every pane. A single antique chair sitting alone in the center of the room on a faded floral rug. Light filters through the colored glass and scatters across the wood floor in fragments. It's the same room in two separate photographs because whoever staged this listing wanted you to sit with it, to really look at what a 138-year-old turret looks like when it's been perfectly preserved rather than gutted. 8 fireplaces total, 4 with carved stone mantels, 4 with original raised Victorian tile work, meaning nobody replaced the original hearths with modern stone slabs. The actual tile, hand set sometime in the 1880s, is still there, still intact, in 4 separate rooms of this house. And here's the number that explains why this costs what it costs. This house underwent a $4 million renovation completed in 2021, a renovation that cost more than the current asking price of the house itself. Every detail was, in the listing's own words, masterfully preserved and restored, while modern technology was integrated underneath it. 7 separate heating zones. A home theater, a recreation room. Embossed Lincrusta ceilings and walls, a raised sculptural wall covering material popular in genuinely wealthy Victorian homes, extremely rare to still find intact anywhere today. Outside, 1.42 acres running down to actual water access, with the ability to rebuild a pre-existing dock that once stood on the property. A private beach. A koi pond, an approved pool site with plans already drawn up. A gated driveway. A detached 2-car garage fitted with a Tesla charging station 21st century infrastructure, grafted onto grounds a Nazi-era refugee advocate once walked with his children through grass taller than they were. 6 bedrooms. 8 fireplaces, 4 of them original Victorian tile. A private beach on the Hudson. A $4 million restoration on a house that already carries the actual historical weight of hiding 200 scholars from persecution, one saved career at a time. $3.9 million gets you the Bennett-Deyrup Estate, a genuine slice of Hudson Valley history, fully restored, sitting exactly where Alvin Johnson found it in the tall grass in 1919, still watching the river the same way it always has. House number 8, a converted schoolhouse in Amsterdam, New York. 4,262 square feet, built in 1890. Listed at $229,900, sitting on nearly a full acre surrounded on all 4 sides by New York State parkland. Look at the front first. A tall square bell tower rises off the roofline, capped with a steep pyramid spire and a small arched window near the top, the kind of tower originally built to hold an actual school bell, calling children in from the fields. White clapboard siding, badly weathered, peeling down to bare gray wood in long vertical strips across almost the entire facade. 4 tall arched windows line the second floor. An American flag hangs limp beside the front door, one of the only spots of color on the whole building. There's an actual historical photograph of this exact building from the 1950s, a small 4-classroom schoolhouse standing alone at a rural crossroads, marked on a state historic site placard as part of the old Schoharie crossing. Same tower, same roofline, same silhouette against open farmland. This building has been standing at this exact spot for well over 130 years, watching the road in front of it change from dirt to pavement. Walk the back grounds and you'll find neat rows of young trees planted in straight lines across the open lawn, an orchard, deliberately planted, growing in the shadow of a building that used to hold 100 years of school children. It's an oddly peaceful detail against a structure that looks, from the front, completely abandoned. Now go inside. 1 staircase, worn wood treads. A black iron railing curling at the newel post. This was one of 2 original staircases in the building. Likely there so an entire building of children could move between floors without bottlenecking through a single stairwell. At the base of the stairs, tucked into an alcove that used to be functional space, sit stacked suitcases, plastic bins, storage crates. Because here's the actual situation. The current owners are living inside this building right now, in the middle of an ongoing renovation. This isn't a vacant ruin. People are actively occupying part of a converted 1880s schoolhouse while slowly working through the rest of it, room by room. The listing is up front about exactly what state it's in. It calls itself, in its own words, an as-is building, meaning varying degrees of repair and work are needed throughout. 4 large classrooms remain, each with 11-foot ceilings, 4 separate 8x8 cloakrooms, still intact actual built-in cubby rooms where children once hung their coats before class. Original trim, original molding, original wainscoting, original wood floors, all still present in the classrooms, while every window in the building has already been replaced. Only one section is currently livable: an open kitchen and living area, 1 bathroom, 1 bedroom, and a utility and laundry room. That kitchen has real marble countertops and a marble-topped island open library-style shelving in place of cabinets, a strange, almost elegant pocket of finished living space existing inside a building that's otherwise still a stripped-down former schoolhouse. The realtor lists a wide range of what this building could become next: a bed and breakfast, a primary home with 2 upstairs studio apartments, a homeschool or charter school space, a dance studio, offices, a wedding venue. That's 5 totally different potential futures for one building, none of them settled, because right now it's still legally and physically just a schoolhouse someone happens to be living inside. Nearly an acre of land, boxed in on every side by a protected state park, meaning no future development can ever close in around it. Less than 45 minutes from Albany. 4 original classrooms, 2 staircases. A working family currently living in one wing while the rest waits, cloakroom by cloakroom, for someone to decide what an 1880s schoolhouse becomes in its 2nd century of standing here.